Baruch de Spinoza. Spinoza was born 24th November 1632 with a Jewish father and died 21st February 1677 because of tuberculosis. Here, Spinoza wrote his works in Latin, and furthermore, he was interested in math and invested in works written by Copernicus, Galilei, and Kepler, who were other philosophers. Spinoza's understanding of God, nature, and religion became an inspiration for future philosophers, as Voltaire in the Enlightenment. Some of Voltaire's work was inspired by Spinoza's work and philosophy. Voltaire and Spinoza's philosophy and acceptance in the community was very different because of the different view on God and society. Spinoza's philosophy about God was very controversial at that time because he believed that God exists and has made the life on earth as a perfect functional system, and that is why God doesn't need to actively intervene in the world, which is deism. Deism is the belief that God exists but does not necessarily intervene in the world. This was not an accepted opinion in proportion to the Church at that time. Ethics is one of his biggest works written by Baruch Spinoza, and overall it summarizes his work as a philosopher. Ethics is one of his greatest works because of his controversial thoughts about religion, nature, humanity, emotions, and the shape of God in the universe, which all are topics that were discussed in the Enlightenment. In general, Spinoza's philosophy and meaning about God is that he hasn't created the universe because God is the universe itself, which shows his pantheism, as he hereby means that the universe in a sense is the body of God, and that God and nature are the same. The universe has always been there and is not created by God. This philosophy is explained in Ethics Part 1, which is called Concerning God, and I had to analyze something. In this part, he writes in proposition number 6, one substance cannot be produced by another substance. His proof to this is that it is impossible that there should be in the universe two substances with an identical attribute which have anything common to them both, and therefore one cannot be caused by the other, neither can one be produced by the other. And when he mentions substance, he means a divine power. This means that God cannot have children because God cannot make another divine power, as the quote portrays. And this is very contradictory to the Christian church because they believe that God has a child who's called Jesus, and he had power, and they said that he was very important to people and make miracles. But this opinion, Spinoza's opinion about God, is repeated in further propositions, as in proposition number 5, as we can see here, where it states that there cannot exist in the universe two or more substances having the same nature or attribute. This quote has the same opinion to God, that only God exists as a divine power, and furthermore the quote explains that that God is the divine power, and therefore Jesus and the Holy Spirit don't exist because God is the only divine power. This opinion about God was very controversial and unusual to share to the people at that time. So he meant that God is the individual human. He meant that God is in the individual human because the human is a product from nature. And this opinion we can see in proposition number 7, where it states that existence belongs to the nature of substances, and his proof to this is that substance cannot be produced by anything external. It must therefore be its own cause. Its essence necessarily involves existence, or existence belongs to its nature. And by this quote, he illustrates that every human has something divine in it, and that every individual could be rational and make their own future and choices instead of the church that had all the power in society. And he mentioned that our existence belongs to the nature substance, and his proof emphasizes that the substance cannot be produced of everything, but is opposite produced by itself. So every substance consists therefore of some divine, and because of that, every substance become natural and a part of the nature, which also is divine and a divine power. So Spinoza changed the view on God on later on in the Enlightenment and in general, because he later he he like changed the structure in society, because the church, or he was a part of changing the structure in society, because he made the church became less important, and uh, the church got less power, um, and people got more well informed. And one of Spinoza's statements was, "The highest activity a human being can attain is learning from for understanding, because to understand is to be free." And this was achieved when the church got less power and the individual became more rational. Um, yeah, and some people listen to Spinoza and his philosophy, and interpreted his philosophy and made example other religions than Christianity. And other philosophers were inspired by Spinoza and his philosophy, and I will say that Spinoza has been a very important philosopher and an actor in society who dared to speak his controversial opinion about God and in religion in a community that was so twisted by the church. So I think that his works and philosophy took part in making the structure in society different. Thanks for watching.